issue potential criminal liability. The reason they released that statement in March of 2022 is because a few weeks before, the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, had issued an opinion saying that these interventions could be investigated as child abuse, which they are. So it makes sense why the hospital would release that statement, right? They need to protect themselves, avoid this criminal liability. So they say, we're shutting down the program. And I knew that that was a lie, unequivocally. The reason I knew that is because I worked there. I did surgery there. The people who were doing these procedures had told me they were doing these procedures. So over the next couple of months, people I worked with had told me that, man, I just implanted some puberty blocking device in some 11, 12, 13-year-old kid who believes they're transgender. And I thought, man, that's odd. They released this statement a few weeks before, a few months before. So I thought maybe maybe like a few holdover cases. Maybe they were scheduled beforehand. I didn't believe it. It just seemed so absurd that the hospital would be lying about something like this. I just didn't think it was possible, right? So over the next couple of months, it just gets worse and worse, more and more frequent, where it's becoming more frequent, but also the stories are getting crazier, where you have these kids with tons of psychiatric issues. All of those are being ignored, and they're just getting these drugs, whether blockers, hormones, to affirm their gender. But I still didn't believe it, right? It took me months. But then it was January of 2023 that all doubt was gone, because it was during that time that the directors of the program, the transgender program, the one that supposedly did not exist, were given the opportunity to speak at the hospital's most prestigious lecture series. It's called Grand Rounds. This is a lecture that's given every single week. It's like demonstrates the priorities of the hospital. So you have the directors of the transgender program who are talking to the entire department, talking about their algorithmic approach to the hormones and the blockers, advising general pediatricians to ask about gender identity behind the backs of their parents, talking about fertility preservation in 11, 12-year-old kids, talking about mastectomies when kids get a little bit older. And that was mind-blowing. But then even there was a few weeks after that, there was a Zoom conference with a few members of the transgender program with a group of 150 medical students, right? Like a public Zoom conference where you had one of the social workers who talked about how they actively concealed the existence of the program from governing state bodies, right? Governing medical bodies, by saying, instead of documenting consults, right, or giving documentation to parents, she would defer documentation, like just call in consults or just tell parents. The reason is to not leave a paper trail. So these people were explicitly talking about how they were hiding this program.
How did you get access to that Zoom call?
Because they were public. The entire medical school.
Wow.
It was a medical student group who put on this conference so anyone could join. There were like 150 people there. And the Grand Rounds, the Grand Rounds lectures are open to every person at Texas Children's, every person at Baylor. So you have like hundreds, if not like over 1,000 people who know the hospital said one thing, but they're doing the exact opposite thing behind closed doors. And so it took me months to make that conclusion, because it's just so insane. And Texas Children's,